Hey guys, Outdoor Gypsy here. If you enjoy hiking, backpacking, or this, then you've come to the right place. Come join us as we hike 50 miles in Desolation wilderness, specifically Crag Lake, Lake Schmidell, Lake Aloha, Gilmore Lake, and Dix Lake. For those of you interested, hang tight until the very end of the video. I'll be sharing some of my thoughts, tips, tricks, things you might want to know before you plan your own adventure out here. Let's get some nature love. Yes. All right, guys, 50 miles in the bag, sick and all. If you enjoyed this video, you surely know what to do. I'll see y'all on the next adventure. Welcome back, everybody. Let's jump right on into some of the details of this trip. The total distance for this trip was 49 miles and the total elevation gain was 9,750 feet. We did this over the course of 6 days and 5 nights in the middle of September. If you want to know the exact details of this trip, I will leave a link in the description down below. Be sure to check that out. This trip did require us to do a little bit of planning ahead of time. Everybody was coming from all different parts of the country. We actually stood overnight in a little motel, packed up all our gear and our food, and then we headed out. We parked our car at the exit point, that being the Eagles Fall trailhead, and we taxied all the way up to our start point, that being the Rubicon trailhead. That's located at the end of Rubicon McKinney Springs Road, and it is a very large parking lot, ample parking space for a number of vehicles. It has a couple of pit toilets. It's a very common drop-off point for OHV vehicles. If you plan on backpacking overnight, you will need an overnight parking permit. I will leave a link down below in the description to access that as well. If you couldn't already tell at the beginning of this video by my voice, I did end up getting quite sick, and it was only after the fact when we got home that I found out I did end up getting COVID on this trip. I have to say, I feel pretty accomplished being able to backpack in Desolation Wilderness 50 miles with a 35-pound bag on my back with COVID. That said, 0 out of 10, would not recommend. Day 1 was an 8-mile day, and like I said before, we started out at the Rubicon trailhead. For the first few miles, we did share this trail with OHV vehicles, which was kind of cool to see. We walked by multiple lakes day 1, including McKinney Lake, Lily Lake, Miller Lake, Lake Genevieve, and Crag Lake. Conditions became more tertiary when we hit the Genevieve Trail, which made route finding somewhat challenging. I don't know, because we're at like a splitter. Are we lost?
Right through here, Mark?
Yeah, this looks like a trail.
Lost on the Genevieve Lake Trail. This day was defined by large moss-covered pines that guided our trek most of the day. We stopped for a bite at Lake Genevieve, which was sublime with the warm sunlight, and elected to push a little further and make Crag Lake home for night 1. We did try our hand at the lake for fishing, but unfortunately turned up empty-handed. Day 2 was a 12-mile day. The sunrise over Crag Lake was absolutely incredible, and we were visited by several friends of the forest, that being a duck, a bald eagle, and a red-tailed hawk before we eventually broke camp. Stony Ridge Lake lived up to its namesake and was guarded by the Sierra rocks and pines. There were several marshes that were beautiful in their own right. Boulders grew steep along our path at times along our steady grind up to the 8,859-foot Phipps Pass, which afforded us breathtaking scenery. Views of granite grew as far as the eye could see descending from Phipps Pass. An array of mushrooms kept us entertained as we neared our second camp. There were some well-placed rocks to mark an otherwise difficult trail to follow since you're hiking on granite a fair bit of the day. Our hearts sank momentarily when we saw what we thought was Lake Schmidell, as it was much smaller than we had anticipated. Fortunately, we found the correct lake with an amazing campsite on the south side,
that would make any lake house jealous. Day 3 was a 9-mile day for us. We awoke to another amazing sunrise, this time just over Lake Schmidell. It was extremely tranquil this morning, and the water was like glass. We did see some fish jumping up and out of the water. They were smaller, 4 or 8 inches, but we did try our hand at fishing again, but unfortunately, similar result, we came up empty-handed. The hike for today started fairly steep, but short in distance as we ground our way up to Lake Lois, where we heard the shrill calls of coyotes on the far side of the lake that made us give pause for a few moments to listen in. We hiked steadily with varying views from forest to mountain backdrops to dispersed meadows. The grind up Mosquito Pass was a beautiful juxtaposition of granite and pine. Lake Aloha appears extraterrestrial as you descend from the pass. From what we were told, the lake was very low at the time we were there. The overwhelming majority of the established campsites are located on the southeast corner of this lake. We took a plunge to remove the day's sweat and dirt, which rejuvenated our spirits. We also were able to make a few friends at camp later in the evening in the way of a couple of marmots. Day 4 was an 11-mile day, and in contrast to the previous several days, this was a fairly easy start to the day with flat hiking until we reached Lake of the Woods. It was a steady grind up from Lake of the Woods until we saw Tamarack and Ralston lakes. It was at this point, little did we know, that we were about to tackle the most arduous, ankle-breaking portion of the trail I've hiked in a minute. We descended at a snail's pace, which took us 1 hour to go 1 mile. This picture just about summed up our mood after this section of the trail, and the sign should have read, "Horses and humans not recommended." We then began the slow but steady grind uphill to Gilmore Lake, which was gorgeous and among some of the best lakes I've ever set camp at. Even though I could feel myself getting sick on day 2, it wasn't until we went up to Gilmore Lakes that I could really feel something was wrong, and I knew I was definitely quite sick. This day was torture for me, and I just wanted to get to camp so bad so I could lay down. It was a very tough day. For day 5, while I remained back at camp to try and rest up and grab a few extra Z's, the rest of the crew did the day hike up to the 9,739-foot Mount Talek.
It's day 5 out here. Felt like crap for the last 3 or 4 days. I personally think I have a sinus infection, but I can't tell. Either way, I am chugging massive wind. Legs feel like rubber, and I have 0 energy.
The rest of the day consisted of 4.5 miles of a steady uphill hike for the better part of the day. 9,981-foot Dick's Peak and 9,850-foot Jack's Peak progressively consumed the foreground views, with Half Moon and Altamoris lakes lying tranquil at their base. Ascending the 9,200-foot Dick's Pass provided stunning views of the surrounding Sierras. Day 6 and our last day on trail was a short 4-mile saunter, mostly downhill, so we took the better part of the morning to just enjoy a few extra moments at camp. Eagle Lake was set to a beautiful backdrop of granite and early autumn colors as we neared the end of the trail. The changes in the landscape on this trip make you feel like each day is a totally different adventure. It provides the senses with an array of diversity from lush forests, numerous alpine lakes, colorful flora and fungi, vast expanses of granite, ambrosial sunrises, and peaceful nights. The trail conditions overall, considering 50 miles, was quite good. Most of the trails are very well marked. There were only a handful of sections that were either very steep, or you were bushwhacking, or there were a few different blowdowns. We didn't see many wildflowers on this trip since it was late in the season, but the few that we did see were the alpine gentian, yarrow, waxy checker bloom, Indian paintbrush, grass of Parnassus, everlasting pea vine, some remnants of red mountain heather, and remnants of aster. We were also lucky enough to catch a few of the California mountain ash berries. Because this trip was planned a little bit later in the season, the mosquitoes were negligible and we got to see some of the early autumn colors. Because of all the alpine lakes in this region, water should not be an issue. There is plenty of it everywhere. All of the campsites are gorgeous and well laid out here. It just depends if you want one that's slightly better than the other. I would say my personal favorite lake to camp at for this trip was Lake Gilmore. All right, guys, that does it for me for now. I am the Outdoor Gypsy. I'll see y'all on the next adventure.